Okay, let me get this out of the way right out of the gate. You can believe in a creator or creators without subscribing to any religion. You can believe in creation and intelligent design based solely on logic, with no religious dogmatic strings attached. I say this because I think the Pavlov's dog reaction to the words God or creator have become really widespread in Western society in particular, and I think it's unnecessarily polarizing. That being said, the topic of the day is why I believe in creation and intelligent design to the point of no longer questioning their validity. Let's get to that. There are tons of arguments for and against these concepts. I won't waste our time dealing with all the prescriptive theories. A simple Google search will lay them all out for you. What I will do is lay out the determining factors that brought me to my conclusions as best I can anyway. I'll start with the analogy that best helps me articulate the idea of what the being or beings that created our reality might be. I should mention that I don't believe ascribing human characteristics to our creator/creators gives us any truth. But admittedly, it's almost impossible not to, because we just think that way. We use association and the descriptors that we have in our language to understand things. For instance, I think that if it comes to like mental imaging, the image of the yin-yang symbol is likely considerably more accurate than the image of a bearded man on a throne. I heard a quote a while back, and I wish I could remember who the quote came from so I could properly accredit them, because this quote really resonated with me for some reason. It was, "God is more like music than like a man." Now, have you ever heard something that it just feels right to you, but you can't really put your finger on why? To me, that just feels right. Anyway, the analogy that works best for me, at least at the moment, is I think of our creator/creator. You know what? For the sake of the simplicity, I'm going to refer to our creator/creators as God instead of creator/creators. For the rest of the video, it's just easier. I think of God as a programmer, and mathematics, physics to be more specific, as his programming language. I believe our current understanding of physics is the equivalent of knowing a couple nouns and a couple consonants and maybe a little bit of sentence structure of a foreign language. Of course, this might offend some physicists, but there are many that would agree with me. My conclusions come through the lens of knowing that I can't know the how of creation, but I can observe the result and then kind of back engineer those results, at least to the limit of my understanding. Start with, we exist. Individually, sure, but by we, I'm referring to everything we know about, the whole of our reality, our time and space. And to put it into an extremely oversimplified statement, nothing comes from nothing. If you follow the spiral of time all the way back to the microsecond before the first subatomic particle popped into existence, there was nothing. But it's impossible for something to come from nothing. I mean, of the relatively few truths we know are absolute, I would posit that one of them is that. But here we are. Is it possible that we're the product of something coming from nothing? I would say decidedly not, which means there is something outside of our time and space that was the causal origin. I would also say that that causal origin shows obvious intelligent intent. When you look at the razor's edge evolution of our universe has had to walk for me just to be speaking to you right now. It's impossible for me to fathom that everything is a product of chaos. Let me use the programmer analogy again. So you input 500 million random characters into a compiler, and then you run an app to randomize those characters and compile them over and over, doing that over and over and over again, with the goal of creating an app that performs a very specific, a very precise function of your choosing, or any functional app for that matter. What are the odds of that happening? I would say 0, because the end result requires design, engineering, and intelligent intent behind those to produce a functional result. When you consider the intricacies of things like the human body, the human mind, consciousness itself, believing those developed from a chaotic, random chance is a much, much further stretch of the imagination, I think. The foundation of scientific observation is recognizing patterns and then trying to identify the causes. Every event has to have a cause, correct? So the first event had to have a cause. Occam's razor, anyone? So given all of this provides enough proof for me to believe that our universe is the product of an intelligence with specific intent to cause it, we come to the evolution versus creation argument that I don't see as a valid argument against a creator. When people say creation isn't true because we have evidence of evolution, I posit that evolution is the vehicle of creation. When a programmer writes a program, they don't just hit a key and it's done. They start with a single character. As they progress, they create algorithms, subroutines, etc. You see where I'm going with this, right? A builder doesn't just poof a house into existence. It's a long, complicated process. I could segue that into a Jesus was a carpenter philosophical conversation. Another video, maybe. I have a lot of road to travel before I get to that kind of stuff, like Jesus. To the creationists that want to refute evolution for some reason, I am really curious as to why. My next questions are going to take me into even deeper waters, like the problem of good and evil. How present is God in our reality or in our personal lives? Stuff like that. I would love to hear feedback on all of this from anyone listening. Thoughts, questions, ideas, or just your favorite emoji to let me know that I'm not talking to myself. If you're curious to see where the road takes me, do the subscribe and follow thing so you get notifications when I put these videos up. I'm not trying to put forth my conclusions as inarguable fact. I'm simply sharing my thought process and how and why I came to those conclusions. Also, this is hands down the best way I've discovered to make me properly articulate these ideas to solidify my own understanding of them. The more input, the better for me on this adventure. I appreciate you listening, and I wish you all nothing but the best. And I'll see you next time.